I kept quiet for a long time, not because I had nothing to say, but because once I speak, nothing hides again.
In the dusty village of Ekwu-Onu, where red sand remembered every footprint and gossip traveled faster than motorcycle, there lived a woman who looked like she had seen tomorrow and didn't like it. Her name was Nkiru, but nobody called her that anymore. They called her Madam One Look, because once Nkiru looked at you, you felt inspected, judged, and somehow remembered. Not remembered by her, remembered by your conscience. Her eyes were the first thing people noticed. Too big for her face, round, wide, like full moons that refused to sleep. Eyes that looked like they were always awake, even when she wasn't. Her head always tilted slightly, as if she was listening to gossip coming directly from the spirit world. And her lips always pressed together, not because she was angry, but because she knew too much and words were too small to carry it. Her body confused people. Small frame, thin arms, not tall, not intimidating. Yet when Inkiru stood on the road with one hand on her waist, she looked like someone who could argue with thunder and win. Her walk alone said, "Yes, I am here. What about it?" Villagers whispered, "Why does she walk like that? Why does she look like she is counting people's sins? Why does her eye never blink?" Nobody had answers, only fear. Inkiru did not talk too much. She observed, and that was her problem. Because in Ekwu-Onu village, people feared only 3 things: thunder without rain, a goat that refuses to bleat, and a woman who watches you quietly. Inkiru was number 3. Something strange always happened around her. Whenever someone lied near Nkiru, their voice cracked like dry firewood. A cheating husband once passed her on the road. She didn't say anything. She didn't even stop walking. But the man suddenly froze, slapped his forehead and shouted, "My wife, her slippers, her anger." He ran home without greeting anyone. One morning, a man met Nkiru and smiled confidently. "Good morning," he said. Nkiru looked at him, just looked. The man swallowed. Then he corrected himself. "Good morning and good afternoon, and I am sorry." Nobody knew what he was sorry for, including him. Nobody also knew what Nkiru did for a living. She farmed nothing, she sold nothing, she begged nothing. Yet, every market day, something strange happened. People gave her things. Not because she asked, but because they felt uncomfortable not giving her. "Take fish, take yam, take this change, just take," as if refusing her would expose something. Children were the first to notice something was truly wrong. They followed her, quietly, barefoot, curious. One afternoon, they ran back home shouting, "Papa, Mama, she talks to herself on the road." The village froze. Talking to yourself was not strange, but how she talked was. That night, elders gathered, lanterns flickered, names were mentioned. Inkiru, Madam One Look, she is not normal. They decided to investigate. What they discovered made them uneasy. Inkiru wasn't talking to herself. She was rehearsing people's lies before they told them. She walked alone and murmured things like, "You will say you are at the farm, but your leg will smell like palm wine." Or, "You will swear on your mother, forgetting your mother is listening." The elders returned home silent, because suddenly the village made sense, and fear settled like harmattan dust. From that day, people stopped greeting Nkiru confidently. They greeted her like someone greeting a mirror, carefully, quickly, avoiding eye contact, because nobody knew what her eyes were collecting, but everyone suspected their secrets were already inside. After that night, people in Ekwu-Onu discovered something frightening. It was safer to lie far away from Inkiru than to tell the truth near her. From that day onward, Inkiru did not change, but the village did. People adjusted their walking paths just to avoid passing her. Men cleared their throats before greeting her. Women pressed their wrappers tighter, as if secrets could fall out. And children stopped following her. Because curiosity is brave, but fear grows teeth. Inkiru still spoke little. She still observed, still stood on the road with one hand on her waist, head tilted slightly, eyes wide open, like they were watching inside people instead of at them. And that was why she became a problem. People began to whisper, "She's not normal. She sees things. She is a mirror." Others argued, "No, she's just quiet." But nobody could explain why silence followed her like a shadow. Nobody also understood how Nkiru survived. She had no farm, no shop, no husband, no children running errands. Yet, every market day, she returned home with food. Fish appeared in her basket. Yams found their way into her hands. Even small change dropped into her wrapper, like it missed its owner. "Take," people said, quickly, not kindly, nervously, as if refusing would summon something. Some villagers tried to resist. One woman folded her arms and said, "I will not give her anything today." She passed Inkiru boldly. Inkiru looked at her. Just looked. That night, the woman dreamt her secret walked naked through the village square. By morning, she rushed to Inkiru's door with pepper and oil. "Take," she begged. Soon, Inkiru became a walking discomfort. People felt seen around her, not with eyes, with truth. Then the elders decided to act. She is disturbing the peace. She is confusing men. She is turning silence into fear. They sent someone to question her, a brave man, or so they thought. He stood before Inkiru and cleared his throat. "Inkiru," he began. "People say..." Inkiru looked at him. The man forgot the rest of his sentence. He started sweating. Then he said something he didn't plan to say. "I didn't steal the goat, but I thought about it." Silence. He ran away. That was when the elders realized something terrifying. Inkiru was not exposing sins. She was exposing thoughts. And thoughts were more dangerous than actions. Fear spread like bushfire. Some called her a witch. Some whispered prophet. Some avoided the road completely. And Inkiru, she remained the same. Quiet, watching, collecting. One evening, as the sun dipped low and shadows stretched long, Inkiru stood alone on the road, hand on her waist, eyes wide, unblinking. For the first time, Inkiru sighed. A long sigh, the kind that sounded like someone carrying a heavy load. And the village felt it. Every heart tightened, because something had changed. Not in her eyes, but in her patience. Children see what adults pretend not to notice. And that was how the trouble started again. In Ekwu-Onu village, fear had grown old. Adults learned how to manage it. They avoided Nkiru. They avoided her eyes. They avoided the road when she was there. But children? Children are not wise. They are curious. And curiosity does not respect fear. They followed her again, barefoot, quiet, giggling at first. Nkiru walked slowly, as she always did, hand on her waist, eyes forward, head tilted slightly, like someone listening to voices nobody else could hear. The children kept their distance until they heard it. Her voice. "She talks to herself again," one child whispered. "No," another said, "she's arguing." They crouched behind a bush and they listened. Inkiru stopped walking. She looked ahead and said calmly, "You will say you were at the farm." Pause. "But your leg will smell like palm wine." The children covered their mouths. She took another step. "And you will swear on your mother." Pause. "Forget that your mother is listening." The children ran. They burst into their houses shouting, "Papa, Mama, Madam One Look talks to herself on the road." The village froze. Elders gathered again. This time, laughter did not join them. Talking to yourself was not strange, but predicting lies, that was different. They decided to watch her themselves from far, from hiding, like people afraid of mirrors. That evening, they followed Nkiru quietly. She walked alone, no greeting, no companion. Then she stopped and spoke again. "Today, you will say the sickness is strong." Pause. "But you are not sick." Pause. "You are tired of work." One elder shifted uncomfortably. "Today, you will cry." Pause. "Not because you are hurt." Pause. "But because you want pity." Another elder cleared his throat. Sweat formed on old foreheads. Because Nkiru wasn't guessing, she was rehearsing tomorrow. They returned to the village shaking. She knows lies before they are told. But how? No one answered, because the truth felt too heavy to carry. The next day, it happened. A woman came to the square holding her waist. She cried loudly, "Oh, this sickness will kill me." Inkiru passed by. The woman stopped crying. She stood straight. Everyone stared. The woman ran away in shame. That was when panic truly entered Ekwu-Onu. People stopped pretending. They started accusing. "She is reading minds. She is a witch. She should leave." Others argued, "If she leaves, who will expose lies?" Nkiru heard everything. She said nothing, but something in her face had changed. Her lips pressed tighter, her eyes heavier, like someone tired of carrying other people's truth. That evening, she stood alone on the dusty road, hand on her waist, eyes wide, still, for a long time, too long. People watched from windows, from behind doors, from fear. Then Inkiru did something she had never done before. She stepped into the middle of the road, directly, openly, like she was ready. The day Inkiru decided to stand still, Ekwu-Onu village lost its sleep. That morning, the sun rose like it was unsure. Market women arranged their goods slowly. Men argued less. Even goats moved carefully, because Inkiru was already on the road, standing, waiting. She stood in the middle of the dusty road, the same road people now avoided, one hand on her waist, head slightly tilted, eyes wide open like two full moons that had refused to set. She did not walk. She did not blink. She waited. People gathered, not because they wanted to, but because fear pulls people together. "Inkiru," someone called softly. "What is it?" She did not answer immediately. She sighed. A long sigh. The kind that sounded like a basket filled with stones finally touching the ground. Then she said, "I am tired." The village froze. Birds scattered. A woman dropped her basket. "I am tired," she repeated louder. "When I look at people," Inkiru said calmly, "I see their secrets jumping like goats inside my eyes." Murmurs spread. She raised her hand and pointed. "You," she said, her finger steady. "You are not sick." The man shook. "You are pretending." Gasps. She turned slowly. "You," she said, pointing again. "That child is not yours." A woman screamed. She turned again. "And you," her voice steady but heavy. "You buried money under your bed and still pray for poverty." The crowd exploded. "Witch!" someone shouted it from the back. "Prophet!" another voice argued. A drunk man pushed forward and screamed, "Please look away from me." People panicked. Some knelt, some ran, some cried, some covered their faces as if her eyes were fire. Elders tried to restore order. "Inkiru, enough!" But the damage was done. Truth had entered the open air, and truth does not return quietly. Then something strange happened. Inkiru smiled for the first time, and her face changed. The seriousness softened. The weight lifted slightly. Her eyes relaxed. She said, "I was born like this. These eyes don't see faces." Silence. They see truth without clothes. No one spoke. No one breathed. She adjusted her green blouse and added, "But today," pause, "I will stop looking." Confusion, fear, hope. "What do you mean?" someone asked. Inkiru took a deep breath. "From today onward," she said, "I will blink." For a second, nobody understood. Then cheers erupted. Relief poured out like water. People laughed. People clapped. People thanked God. Some even danced. But Inkiru did not smile again. She turned and walked away, slowly, quietly, like someone who had just dropped a heavy load but left it behind on purpose.
The night Inkiru blinked for the first time, lies began to die. At first, nobody noticed. Ekwu-Onu village slept peacefully. People believed the danger had passed. After all, Nkiru had promised to stop looking. She had blinked, and blinking meant mercy, or so they thought. The next morning, something strange happened. A man lied, and his lie collapsed before it reached the ground. He stood before his wife and said, "I slept at my friend's house." But his mouth refused to finish the sentence. The words scattered. His tongue tangled. He ended with, "I'm sorry." He did not know why. Another woman cried in the market. "Business is bad," she said, but her tears dried instantly. Her voice changed and she said the truth instead. "I am angry that others are doing better than me." People stared. She covered her mouth. Across the village, excuses failed. Deceit expired. Lies became weak, like old men without walking sticks. People panicked. "This is worse," they whispered. At least before it was only her eyes. Now, truth was loose. They ran to Nkiru's compound. She sat quietly, blinking, looking normal, peaceful. Someone shouted, "Nkiru, you said you would stop." She looked up gently. "I did. I stopped looking." And spoke slowly. "It was never my eyes." Silence. "It was your guilt," she continued. Guilt that was tired of hiding. People fell quiet because something inside them agreed. From that day, Ekwu-Onu village changed. Not because they became perfect, but because lying became stressful. People chose silence over deceit, truth over drama, peace over pretending. Inkiru returned to walking the road, hand on her waist, eyes blinking normally now, still big, still watchful, but lighter. Children grew up hearing this story. Elders warned them softly, behave yourself, not because Nkiru is watching, but because your conscience is. Till today, in Ekwu-Onu village, elders warn children, behave yourself, because even if Nkiru closes her eyes, your secret is still awake.